Did we go back into session?
We did go back into session, but now apparently everybody on the floor is putting on tear gas masks.
Look at this performative rubbish. Performative rubbish.
They're putting on their tear gas masks.
Putting on there. What? Oh, my. Can you believe this? Oh, we can believe it, Nancy.
But the fact is, on any given day, they're breaking the law in many different ways.
Look at this. It's like the real
frankly,
world.
much of it at the instigation of the President of the United States.
Oh, there's nothing. This is not set up at all, people.
Could at least somebody.
Yeah, why don't you get the president to tell them to leave the Capitol?
He did, you dumbass.
Your law enforcement responsibility.
He did.
Public statement, they should all leave.
Yeah, he did, but that's very loud. He did Chuck. Is that Chuck Schumer? That was Chuck Schumer, right? Oh, I get mixed up between Schumer. That was Chuck Schumer. They did, but then they took his video off of, they banned him from social media. Hold on, there was another great one here that I came across. Lectern guy.
The Tampa Bay man who became infamous for this photo carrying Nancy Pelosi's lectern during the Capitol
where's
riot
Waldo?
has been sentenced to 75 days in prison.
75
Adam Johnson took a
days.
plea agreement. He also has to turn over any profit that he could make from books and interviews. He will serve a year of supervised release and pay $5,000 in fines and $500 in restitution.
Did he go to court in flip-flops? Now, I've got one more question to ask everybody. All right, good afternoon, East Coast. Good morning, West Coast. Good evening, Europe. And bonsoir, la France. Qu'est-ce qui se passe là? This is going to be amazing. This has been one that has been on my checklist for a very long time. The Lectern guy, Adam Johnson. He actually has a name. It's not the Lectern guy, like, the I Didn't Do It kid when Bart Simpson went viral for I Didn't Do It. Adam Johnson went viral at the worst possible time for the worst possible reasons for a photograph of him stealing a lectern. And I wonder, actually, before we even get started, do I do a poll before we get started? I'm going to, before we bring him in. Does everybody think he stole the lectern? Let me just put this in here and see if I can do this. Did Adam steal the lectern? How do I put a poll in? How heck is my problem here? I don't know how to put in a poll. Okay, start a poll. Did Adam steal a lectern? Ask your community. All right. We're going to get into it. I got a lot of questions. I watched him live on Timcast when he was there. Oh, and I'm glad there are a lot of questions outstanding. They didn't really delve into his childhood. I made sure that we could because I'm going to, because there's a story that needs to be told to understand who Adam is. Before we get started, no medical advice, no election fortification advice, no legal advice. We are going to move into Rumble after we get Adam's, childhood upbringing. And that's not so that we can discuss things that we can't discuss on YouTube. It's because I've got exclusivity with Rumble. I'll put this stream up on YouTube afterwards. YouTube gets the leftovers. Now, Rumble is the primary platform because it's the best place for free speech. If you want to support the channel, all that stuff. You got super chats on YouTube, but YouTube takes 30% of those. Rumble rants, Rumble ordinarily takes 20%, but for the rest of the year, they take 0%. But it's better to support the creator on Rumble, better to support a platform that supports free speech. And we are simultaneously streaming on the locals at our wonderful community where everyone is above average. vivabarneslaw.locals.com. The link, I tweeted that out earlier. All right. This is good. We're going to do this, people. All right, Adam, I'm bringing you in. 3, 2, 1.5, 1, and he's in. All right. Sir, I'm going to ask the question I always ask. How goes the battle?
Well, the battle is it's all but over as far as the legal repercussions for trespassing. But there are some social consequences we're still dealing with. I'm having a hard time getting back into college. I've applied a couple of times, and they still say no because I have a misdemeanor for trespassing.
We're going to get into that, and we're getting well ahead, well too early.
Sorry.
No, don't over that. What the heck was I just about to say? Bringing you in, how goes the battle? I forgot what it was. Oh, no, that you do have a name. It's Adam Johnson. It's not Lectern guy, but my goodness, that is, until you shave your head or it goes gray or you shave that is how you will be forever known on the interwebs. Adam, 30,000 foot overview. I mean, we're going to get into we're going to get into everything. And one of the things is going to be the lingering consequences of your newly discovered freedom. Despite you had your first 4th of July free since the event yesterday, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, we're going to get there too. Before we get ahead of ourselves, 30,000 foot overview before we get into the nitty gritty of your childhood upbringing, who you are, who your parents are, what type of life you had that led you to that moment where you stole a lectern, and we're going to get to that as well. Who are you?
I'm Adam Johnson. I am 38 years old. I'm a father of 5, happily married for 12 years. 5 are boys, so I'm raising a bunch of boys, trying to raise them to be men.
5 kids, and they're all boys.
They're all boys, yes.
Okay,
Ranging from 16 down to 8.
16 down to 8. 5 kids in 8, give or take, years. All right. Not to draw similarities, because it's not always a question of bringing it back to the interviewer. I'm the youngest of 5. 5 kids, 8.5 years from first to last. 4 boys, 1 girl. My mom was set on having kids until she had a girl, but then she had the girl at the 3rd, and then continued to have 2 other kids, one of whom was a mistake. Okay, that's a joke. I'm the youngest. 5 kids, man. Okay, congratulations, fantastic. We're gonna get there. Where you're from? Are you from Florida?
I was a Navy brat growing up, so I kind of went around. Born in Tennessee, lived in Virginia, and then came down to Florida when I was probably 8 or 9 years old. So I claim to be a Floridian now, but it's been the majority of my life.
You said a Navy brat.
Yes.
What does that mean for a schnook Canadian who's never served?
So both of my parents were in the Navy. So Navy brat is a kid that gets to travels around with their parents who are in the Navy.
Actually, I want to explore that a little bit in a second, but how many generations has your family been in America?
Good Lord. I think probably 4. I'd say 4 generations, 5 generations. My grandfather, he was adopted, so I'm not really sure what his lineage is. My mom did the whole 23andMe thing and tried to figure out where he was from, but we're guessing mostly Italian from his side. But we also have some, all the classic, Anglo-Saxon roots that most of us have. And
did your grandfather or grandparents serve as well, as far as you know?
My grandfather did, and I believe my great-grandfather did as well.
Great-grandfather would have been, I don't want to be totally stupid here, World War I. Grandfather would have been World War II? Or
Yes.
is your grandfather Vietnam era?
He would have been World War II era.
And both of your parents are in the Navy. Did they meet in the Navy?
They did. My mom served 10 years, and my father served, I want to say it's 25 years.
I gotta keep asking with these questions. I mean, this is a joke, not a joke. I'm very curious. Do they actually meet on a Navy ship? And if they did, have they ever explained to you what love in the military on a vessel on the ocean looks like? Like, I presume you're not allowed doing certain things on a boat?
Well, they were actually both in the band. So my dad played the French horn, and my mom is a woodwind. She plays clarinet, saxophone, all of those ones, flutes, piccolos.
May I ask what your parents did? What did your parents do in the military? They were not in the military to be on the band. That's sort of like a side hustle when you're in the military? Or when
So
you're in
that's
the Navy?
actually, they were in the band. That's what they did. There's a whole Navy band. They do marching parades. My mom did the ticker tape parade in New York when she was younger. She was, what do they call the person with the baton out front? I should know this. I did the marching band for a little bit.
The twirler, I think, is the non-technical term. I have no
Yeah, they do the thing where they, and march the band down the streets. They're good. My mom still plays in bands now. That's kind of her full-time thing.
So they're in the military as part of the military band, which means they travel with the military for military purposes, for performance purposes. That's wild. They meet in the military. Are they allowed having a relationship, or relationships frowned upon when you're in active service?
So I want to say that my father was a couple of ranks higher than my mom when she joined. And my father already had 2 kids on his own. So he's raising 2 kids, by himself. And they met, and I'm pretty sure they had to report they had a relationship, but the Navy's, it's okay. As long as you're still serving and doing your performance duties and things like that.
Okay, that's totally wild. Now, so you are born out of this relationship. Are you, of the 5 kids, how, where do you position yourself?
Out of this relationship. So there were 2 that were from my father's side. Then my mom and he had 4 kids from themselves. So I am second in line of the next batch of kids.
Okay. I was actually getting just confused between your 5 kids and how many siblings you had.
Yes.
So there are 4 siblings from the second marriage, 2 siblings from a first marriage.
Yes.
And what does the military brat lifestyle look like? Like, are you when you're moving around frequently? Are you living in military barracks, or do you live in like residential areas that they sort of rent out for military people?
So I was pretty young when this happened. You typically live on base. They give you housing every base you go to. So I've actually got a couple of family members that are in the military. We get to visit them occasionally, and it's like normal houses. They have like 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. You're living in a neighborhood, cul-de-sacs and everything. So it's actually very normal. But I was probably 8 or 9 years old when they divorced. So they separated. The last base they served at was at Pensacola. And that's where my dad still lives, in Pensacola. And my mom moved to Orlando for a bit with us.
All right, interesting. So your dad was prior divorced, then gets divorced again with the second marriage.
Mm-hmm.
When you're 8 or 9, with 4 siblings. And what did you say you were with the 4 siblings from the second marriage?
I was second in line. So I have 2 brothers and 1 sister, and I was second in line.
All right. Now, after the divorce, who do the kids live with? Do they live with mom or do they live with dad?
We lived with my mom for almost our entire existence. Didn't actually get to meet my dad again until I was probably, I want to say 12 or 13 years old. But there were some disputes going back and forth. Divorce is an ugly thing, and sometimes people just, can't get over themselves to do what's best for the kids.
Interesting. So from your development age of a child to a troublemaking teenager, I'm maybe presuming things. You didn't see your dad for 3 to 4 years.
That is correct.
Was there, not to get Freudian, was there any male fatherly influence in your life, or was it just you guys and your mother?
My mom dated for a few years. She did eventually remarry when I was, I want to say, probably 13 years old, 12 or 13 years old. He was a great guy. He was a pharmacist, really hard working, 60 hours a week. He had 4 kids from his first marriage, and his wife had since passed away, so he was a widower. His 4 kids were older. He was an older man. But my mom met him in church, and he was in the choir and she was playing in the band. They hit it off. They were married for, God, I want to say 10 years, almost 10 years before they eventually got divorced, But great guy, raised us, did a great job, super giving, super willing to step in and raise 4 kids, that were older.
Do you have memories of what it's like to be 8 to 12 years old? Like that you haven't forgotten about that part of your life?
Oh, sure.
What is it like for a kid who's watching his mother bring back, I'm not saying bring back like shack it up type thing. I'm just like dating men who are not your father. Is that, do you receive that well, or does that always strike you as being something of an offense, coming from a family offense?
I think it has to deal a lot with how present the biological father is, or not, how not present he is, how the kids take it. For us, I hadn't seen my dad in years. And boys, when they're growing up, they're very thirsty to have a male role model. They want to be led. They want to be instructed. They want to feel proud of the things they're becoming, the things they're doing. So for us, I was excited to have a male role model. And the man was, he went to college. He was educated. He was things that I wanted to be myself. So it was actually great. I love that man. He was a great man.
All right, now getting into teenagehood, what kind of kid are you? Are you a troublemaker? Are you law-abiding? Are you a rebel? Let us know so we can compare it to the rebellious moment of January 6th.
So there was definitely a divide in the house, whether education was important or whether just you can play instruments and that'll be the only thing you need to do. My mom was very heavily invested in the arts. I grew up, in theater. I grew up playing instruments, and my father was very heavy into education. But part of the issue with being a stepfather sometimes is that you don't have the same amount of authority that maybe the biological parent that comes in has to, direct the kids in a direction that you think might be best for them. So for us, we were very heavily pushed into the arts and things like this. So education was kind of secondary. Now in the arts community, there is a lot of flagrant behavior, we can say. I'm sure we've seen these things happen across the world. And I did start smoking pot and things because, that's what you're supposed to do when you're in the arts and a musician. And things got off the tracks for a couple of years. I will say that. Around, I think it was a little bit after I was 18 years old, they ended up getting divorced. I ended up, just not having a good go, suffered with some depression, ended up in a halfway house for about a year, got clean, got sober, but it was a difficult time that I went through. But I don't think I'm a terrible person, just, a teenager going through some there's some struggles.
Well, I mean, if anybody's gotten through adolescence without some struggles, I think that might be more suspicious than the reality for most. So that's it. So the bout ending up in a halfway house, and what's the path towards getting your life on track and to getting clean? And if I ask the obvious question, have you adopted like a zero consumption policy since then, or have you managed to work things out?
Well, the path there was pretty simple. I wasn't forced to go there, by any stretch of the imagination, not court ordered or anything. It basically was, you're not a good influence on your brothers and sisters. You're always high, and you're not having a good positive effect on the family. We can't have you here anymore. And you're 18, and we think you need to just go find a way through this. And you don't seem to listen to us, so here is an opportunity that may help you. So I was in the halfway house for about a year, stayed sober, got a job as a cook. Learned. Actually had a really good time doing that. And after the fact, I didn't adopt a zero, I still enjoy a single malt, but there's this idea within the AA, NA community that, once an addict, always an addict. And they have all these sayings and things they do. But I'm more of I'd rather be a conqueror than a quitter, is kind of where I landed. And I look at addictions, I look at these things, and all of it really stems from, have you dealt with the issues that put you in that place to want to abuse these things? Have you actually processed the emotions that you have? And are you dealing with them in a healthy way? And I think if you look at those things and decide to deal with your drama or trauma in a healthy way, you can be a conqueror and not live in that place where I can't even be around these things because, I'm too weak to exist in those spaces.
Very interesting. You mentioned church. Growing up, a religious upbringing, or not so much?
Southern Baptist, actually.
Now,
So,
explain to me what that means. I was having a discussion with someone yesterday as to what Methodists are. Like, I don't know the subdivisions within Protestantism, within Catholicism. Southern Baptists, I think I know from the movies. That's uber religious, correct?
They do get a bad rap. They don't condone alcohol consumption or drug consumption. They are, I will not sit here and pretend to know all of the different sects of religions, but they get a bad rap. Mostly the good things, though, is we really, really do like having cookouts. We are very interested in getting to the restaurants first, so the sermons are typically a little bit shorter in Southern Baptist churches, which is great. But I didn't really ascribe to any type of sect of religion. It was basically, I do believe that Jesus Christ walked the earth and that he died for our sins and that grace abounds. And if you don't know him, you should try to find him.
It's very, our community, they don't struggle with me, but I have recently, but maybe not so recently, like developed, I love biblical verses. I follow Jack Posobiec, and since I've been following him, he posts verses, which are like, that's wonderful insight. And I think there's no inconsistency in saying, Jesus existed. There are incredible teachings, which I think, religious or not, people should know. But then I have my issues with the religious aspect of anything, Judaism as well. But the teachings I can wholly appreciate, and they become obviously more and more important as time goes on, and you see the debauchery, the degeneracy, and the depravity of the world. Okay, now hold on. So not religious, but religion was there. You go to church, Southern Baptist, it's kind of the stronger religion. Politically, chat wants to know, there's some predictions that, the arts, they're predicting Democrats, but now you throw in the Southern Baptist and you might be confusing people. Politically speaking, growing up, what was your mom like? What was your family like?
Well, politics really weren't discussed growing up. I'm pretty sure my father was a closet conservative. He's an older guy and just kind of grew up in that era. And my mother, again, being in the arts, we always had, gay friends, and, we were going to places, and, like the arts community, especially in theater, it's very, very, very flamboyant. And those things are very widely expressed and very widely accepted there. So I grew up with the impression that they're just normal people that they have different activities they do in the bedroom, or at least with different orifices, so I didn't really have a take on it. I was like, oh, there's normal people, and most people who don't know them just don't know they're normal people. So politically speaking, I was kind of divided, because we would go to church and you'd hear these sermons, these people are sinners, and they should repent and not do these things. And then I would go to the theater or go play in these bands, and it would be a completely different mindset and setting. So it was a lot of a lot of just cognitive dissonance growing up.
Okay, fascinating. Now, after the halfway house has a very, very heavy baggage to it, but after that era of your life, you work as a chef. Were you working as a chef or working in the kitchen?
I was working in the kitchen, so I worked for a guy. His name is Michael John, super nice guy. He actually trained with Emeril Lagasse, so he's got like really good training. And I started doing dishes because I just needed a job, and it was hard to get a job because I got arrested for smoking pot. So you go work in a kitchen. So I started working on dishes. Eventually, he allowed me to start cooking breakfast. Then eventually, he started letting me cook dinner. So it was a really good experience. I was given an opportunity, and I was just thankful to have it.
This is at roughly the age of 21, 22, or is this later on?
This is around 18, 19. He was
Okay.
there through all of this stuff that I was going through and always very supportive. And, I remember there was a time I showed up to his doors, to his, to the restaurant. And I asked him, I was like, hey, like I need a loan. And he knew that I was messed up. And he's like, man, like, are you ever not messed up? When are you going to get your life in order? I can't keep giving these chances. And I think it was in that moment where like it really affected me, because here is this, this person that I greatly respect, who obviously cares about me, giving me a chance. And he tells me like, man, you should do better. You should be better. And that was one of those moments that really changed me and making me want to like get my shit together.
I'm going to pry a little bit. Would you say messed up now? Is it like marijuana type things, or is it harder stuff? Marijuana, alcohol, or
marijuana, alcohol, I'm not really into the rest of the stuff, or it's haven't tried it. So, marijuana, alcohol.
Not that I have not. Let me think. I don't want to ever, I don't have to tell the truth, but I can't lie. I've never done, I'm convinced if I do cocaine, I will immediately die like that. I'm convinced heart will immediately explode and forget anything that has to go in with needles. Okay. So after this,
I had friends that overdosed and stuff. So I've always been a little hesitant to get into those things. So, because when you're growing up around those people, lots of people do lots of things in those communities. And I had a friend that actually overdosed when I was young. So it always just kind of like, nope, not even once. No, thank you.
It's an amazing thing. I only understood this as an adult, that we had a teenage friend who died. This was died suddenly, but not, not the same died suddenly now. And, they just said it was an aneurysm. But it's only in retrospect that we understood as an adult what had actually happened to this person as they weren't a kid so much, 16, 17, and it was a tragedy. But it wasn't a spontaneous aneurysm, or so we think in retrospect. Do you go to university after the kitchen? Do you study, or what's the next decade like?
After the kitchen, I met a girl. I was sober for about a year and a half. Met this girl in church. We ended up getting married about 3 months after I met her, because I'm young and I feel like I'm supposed to do to make sure my life is on the right path is to get married, have kids, settle down, go to work, do all those, alpha male things. So meet this girl. We ended up having 3 kids together across 5 years. These are my oldest kids. We ended up divorcing because we're just young, and the pressure of being young and having kids and not really knowing each other and understanding relationships kind of turns out that way sometimes. So we ended up divorcing, and I met my second wife, who I'm married to now for 12 years, a few months after we divorced, and we really hit it off. We had a lot of the same similarities. She was also divorced. She always wanted a big family. We ended up getting full custody of the kids. She adopted them almost 10 years ago now. We had 2 together. So now we have 5 kids we're raising together, and it's been a great ride since.
It's fascinating. In our cultural milieu in Montreal, where I'm originally from, 50% of families got divorced. I mean, my parents have been married for a long time. They've never been divorced 50. What year is 1967? 55 years?
Mm-hmm.
They've been married a long time. They're old. I've seen a lot. I mean, I've seen a lot of it, and it's not a shocker to me. From your perspective, you get married young. This is not a judgmental observation. It's just an observation. Mm-hmm. You've seen marriage breakup after marriage breakup. Mm-hmm. Do you think you either not learn the right lessons or learn the wrong lessons from having lived through that experience?
I think not learning the right lessons. I've definitely discussed this with our kids, and discussed this with my wife, that we have to be such an example for our kids, that the nuclear family is the thing that is going to, I think, save the world. I really, truly do. And if we're not giving them an example of what it means to love someone deeply, unconditionally through our relationship, it's the biggest disservice we can do for them. And almost everything is going to be fall in line after that if they see a good relationship and a good model of it.
No, I didn't mean to bring that up. I wanted to flag that comment as a joke because it's funny. Jesus saved, but Moses invested. I was like, is there actually a Jewish joke that I've never heard? I'm keeping that one. Okay, so let me see here now. 18, that's 18 years ago because you're 36. What year are we in now? We're in 2013. So that's 2023. So we're in like 2005. What do you do for vocation? What do you end up studying, doing as work for the next decade plus?
So when I met my wife that I'm married to now, I was actually a beer vendor. So I was selling beer for a living, just stocking shelves, having a good time. Great company. It was a lot of fun, had a lot of friends. And anyone who's a vendor knows it's a really good time. You constantly get to just talk with people and meet new people. And it's a really good time. And after I met my wife, we decided that, I have better potential than I've been allowed to or had the opportunity to seek out. So I started going to college. The idea is my wife's a physician, so she's very, into higher education and wanted me to, get an opportunity to pursue that. So I went to college. I went for pre-med, and then towards the end of pre-med, I was told it would be near impossible for me to get a residency after I finished med school because I had a drug charge when I was 18 for smoking some marijuana. That just the paperwork involved in this is absolutely just, you're not going to get through it. So, you can become a doctor and have multiple drug charges and keep your licenses, but you can't have one going up to it. It's just a red flag for them.
Now we need to backtrack 18 years. Or I said maybe 10 years. What happened? Okay, what happened? You get arrested for marijuana possession? Are you dealing? Do you have like a kilo or
possession?
How much?
It was actually the end of a joint. We're talking about less than a gram.
I need to know this. You're smoking outside and cops come up to you?
I'm actually smoking in a pool bathroom in a community. So it's a community that I live in, and we're a bunch of just young kids and, we're smoking some pot, just having a laugh, thinking about maybe going for a walk and going fishing at midnight. And some cops walk into the bathroom and, someone threw it on the ground. They ended up finding it. And it's like a roach. It's like a little roach.
No, but this is like out of a movie where you don't believe that cops would ever do this. Although in the movie it would be racialized immediately, and they'd say the only reason the cops are doing this is because the perpetrators are black or whatever. This happened to where is it? This is in Florida?
This is in Florida.
And you're smoking a doobie, as the children call it, in a bathroom of a community pool. Cops come, and this is 2005. No,
this is a long time ago.
No, but this is but it's still in the modern era. This is not like 1960s where marijuana is. No, I can't do my math properly with this, but whatever. It's after 2000.
Yes.
Oh my God, this is modern history and it's still happening. And you throw the doob on the ground because and then they find it and it's like the guy smells it. He's like, whose is this? And you get, what is it? A misdemeanor charge or is it just?
It's a misdemeanor charge. It's a misdemeanor charge. So they put me on probation, and so they put me on probation. It was like 6 months of probation, and I had missed an appointment because I'm 18 and I just don't keep appointments because I'm still young. And so they actually violated me for not showing up to an appointment. I got pulled over. I had this old Civic, like 1995 Civic, and it had like a body kit and all this stuff on it. The Fast and Furious movies were very popular back then. And I had this 5-point crown on my hood. I just thought it looked cool. Turns out it's actually a gang sign for Latina Kings. I had no idea. So I get pulled over because they think I'm a gang member. And I'm very white. If you can't tell, I'm a very white person.
You could if you get a tan, maybe you could pass for South American. I don't know, but they pull you over because you have a gang symbol hood.
Apparently, and they're like, "Do you know what this is? What the sign is?" And I'm like, "I have no idea what that is. Like, it's actually a gang symbol." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not in a gang, so why would I know that?" So they end up searching me. Turns out I violated probation, and there was another, I think, 6 months worth of probation added on to it. So all the stuff that I went through, my life was kind of falling apart. So,
that's unbelievable because I'm not necessarily a proponent of like legalizing marijuana so everybody can smoke it because I think it's much different than people think it is. Like, hey, just take whatever, but that's me. But the idea of ruining someone's life over that, is exactly the problem, and there's probably a middle ground in there.
The
So
people
this-
that I met in prison whose lives were ruined over just some weekend cocaine. Oh my God! And
Well,
we'll get to
we're,
that. But
we're going to get to
yeah.
that. So
Mhm.
18 years later, you are doing pre-med, and they say you're never going to get a residency. But how far into studying pre-med do you discover this?
Oh, I'm at the point where I'm taking my test, like to get into med school. So I took my my MCAT already. So I'm taking my MCAT. I'm in organic chemistry too, physics too. I'm taking all the things I'm supposed to take, and I'm trying to apply to USF at this point. And they told me, like, listen, it's just probably not in the cards. You may want to try to change the direction of your degree. So I do that. I end up going into psychology instead because you're not, around all the dangerous drugs that they give everyone. And I changed to that. I end up getting my AA. I go to USF, and I got like a 3.9 GPA there. I'm a great student. I'm doing all these projects for professors and everything. And it got to the point where my kids are kind of young. They're in daycare, and they're just not getting what they need from us because she's working 50 hours a week, and I'm at college 40 to 50 hours a week as well. So they're being raised by other people. So we decided that the best thing we can do is have me take a break and just raise the kids for a few years until they're all in school, and at least have that foundation to where they're able to kind of fend for themselves and take care of themselves a little better.
I'm not going to make the joke that I know lots of people do make, because when I took time off work when we had our first kid in Canada, you have maternity leave, you have parental leave, and I took parental because I said that first of all, I'll take some time off for my wife, and the jokes, you're taking mat leave or you're the stay-at-home mom type thing. It never gets old. That's incredible. Okay. Now,
Well, what do they say? Like, when a woman is a stay-at-home mom, it's the hardest job in the world, but when a guy does it, he's unemployed.
there's another more sick twist to that. It's like women's liberation is going to work, and then somehow it's regression for men to do it. I guess that does make kind of some logical sense. Okay, so you stop. By the way, what was AA? Did you say?
Alcoholics Anonymous, and NA is Narcotics Anonymous.
Oh, so you go into that in terms of the psychology degree that you're studying. Okay, very interesting. And then you go home. Have you since gone back to the workplace, or are you still raising the kids?
I'm still raising the kids. I'm trying to get back into college. I applied last year to go back because my kids are all in school now, and I have like one semester left to finish my degree. And then after that, we're considering grad school, but something online so I can finish it and still be here for the kids. But when I applied, they told me that I couldn't go because I had a misdemeanor.
What are they going to tell you now? Sorry, well, I don't mean to make light of your misery, but
no, they actually allowed me in with my first misdemeanor for the marijuana. They allowed me in, no problem. But they said this next misdemeanor of trespassing, because I was on supervised release, they couldn't allow me in, that I was dangerous or something, and I should reapply later. But we're talking about college, where multiple people are on probation, I am sure. So I don't know why my case was so significantly different.
Well, let's just compare it to competitive athletics in university. But the question I had: what kind of doctor is your wife?
She is a physician. She's a general physician, so she does all the primary care stuff.
I've got questions for you. I'll ask afterwards. Okay, I'm joking. One thing I do not, one thing we have enough connections to are lawyers and doctors. So I think, Adam, now is going to be the time when we're going to move over to Rumble, because we're going to start getting. We know you now, but I still got more questions. I'm going to send everybody the link one more time to go to Rumble, because we're going to do this there now. Bring it on over, and it's going to get interesting. Everybody, move it over to Rumble. You can go to Locals if you want to watch it there as well. I'm competing. Robert Barnes, we do our weekly streams. We're crossing streams today, so to speak. So he's live with the Duran right now, talking Russia. And we're talking this, so people are going to have a full day's worth of information to digest later on.
Beautiful.
Come on over to Rumble. I'm ending.